guys, and welcome to my video on fractions, decimals and percentages. The first step, how to write fractions and decimals as percentages. So an example of a fraction would be 5/20. And this, first of all, can be simplified to 1/4. And then to turn this into a percentage, you simply multiply it by 100/1. That would give us the answer of 25%. Now to decimals. So to convert 0.31 into a percentage, multiply it by 100, and that would give us the answer of 31% because you simply move the decimal point twice to the right. Now for some questions. So 0.23 as a percentage, you multiply it by 100, which will give us the answer of 23%. 45.91 reoccurring as a percentage, which would give us an answer of 459.1 reoccurring %. Now for a worded problem. So these are the test results of Reem. On her maths test, she scored 32.4 over 36, and on her science test, she scored 27.3 out of 30. And so what we need to do, which test she scored the highest. We're going to do this by turning them into percentages. So first of all, this fraction has a decimal point. We need to get rid of that because you cannot have a decimal point in a fraction. An easy way to do this is just to multiply it by 10, both the numerator and the denominator, giving us a new fraction of 324 over 360. When this is simplified in simplest form, 9/10. And then we just multiply this fraction by 100/1. So on her maths test, Reem received 90%. Now, the same thing occurs, there are no decimals in a fraction, so you just multiply this by 10 and multiply this by 10, giving us 273 over 300. This can be divided by 3. That would give us the answer of 91 over 100. Your answer would simply be 91%. So we can determine she got highest on the science test. The next thing is writing 35, which is a percentage, as both a fraction and a decimal. So 35 must be 35 over 100, because whenever you have a percentage, the denominator will be 100. So this can be simplified to 7/20, and that is our answer. Now 35% as a decimal would just be 0.35 because you just divide it by 100. So giving us an answer of 0.35. Now for some questions. So 42% as a fraction and a decimal would just be 42 over 100, which will be 21 over 50. 42% as a decimal, because you divide it by 100, will be 0.42. 6.5% as a fraction, that would be 65 over 1,000. And the third question, 442.334%, that would be 442,334 over 100,000. For a worded problem, Amira scored 24% out of her team's goals in a match. If her team totally scored 50 goals, how many did Amira score? We have to write this as both a fraction and a decimal. So you simply go 24 over 100 because it's 24%. You multiply this by 50 over 1 because it is the total amount of goals, giving us a fraction of 24 over 2, which is 12. As a fraction, she scored 12 over 50 goals, and as a decimal, that would just be 12.0. Writing one amount as a percentage over another. So let's say I had 25 pens, and 4 of them were broken, and I wanted to figure out the percentage of the amount of broken pens. So I would simply multiply it by 100/1. Now, 4 times 4 is 16, which means we have 16% of the pens are broken. Let's say I gave 3 out of my 8 burgers to my friend, and I wanted to see this as a percentage. Simply again multiply this by 100/1, which just means 75/2, and you divide this normally. And the answer to this is 37.5%. This was calculated using the method of long division. Now for some questions. Express the first amount as a percentage of the second amount. 1.5 over 0.3. No decimal places in a fraction, which will give us a new fraction of 15 over 3 to 5. But we have to multiply this by 100 because we want to figure out the percentage. So the answer would be 500%. And 29 over 321.2 as a percentage. This fraction would remain as it is. Now that means the next step is multiplying this by 100 over 1, giving us the answer of 7,250 over 78, which when written in simplest form would be 3,625 over 39. And when this is divided on a calculator, you will obtain the answer of 87.307 as a percentage. So, this is a girl named Selena's spending list. So in week 1, she had a total amount of money of $365 and she spent $161.25. In her second week, she had a total of $250 and Selena spent $96.75. So now this problem is basically asking us to figure out which week she spent the most on. So we do this by calculating the spending percentage and seeing which percentage is the highest, giving us the amount that she spent the most on, which will give us our answer. Now the first step of this problem is to write the spent amount over the total. So when you do this as a regular fraction, it would look like so. Now this in simplest form would be 129 over 292. Now this you must multiply it by 100 over 1 to figure out the percentage. Then you would get 645 over 73. And when this is divided, your answer would be 8.836%, rounded to 3 decimal places. Now let's move on to week 2. So, the total is 250 and she spent 96.75. Let's write that as a fraction. And when you simplify this in simplest form, the answer would be 387 as the numerator over 1000 as the denominator. And now you multiply this by 100, giving us an answer of 38.7%. So, now on her first week, she spent only 8.836%. But in the second week, she spent 38.7%. So this means that on the second week, she spent the most amount of money.